The 2023 NFL schedules have been released, and for the 49ers, it is a doozy. Big games, Eagles, Seahawks, holiday games, Thanksgiving, and why Eric Crocker thinks the 49ers might start in the hole from jump in 2023. Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're talking 2023 schedule. It has been released. We know who the 49ers are playing. We know when and where the 49ers are playing weeks 1 through 18 in the 2023 schedule. And Croc, you're already getting a lot of heat because you predicted publicly that the San Francisco 49ers are going to lose week 1 to the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road at Pittsburgh week 1 as the season gets going. And Croc, this is a team that has started slow the last couple of years. Do you think that's going to continue at Pittsburgh on September 10th? Because I have to imagine, Croc, your question is, who's the stinking quarterback going to be?
I feel like there's so much up in the air. And if we think about the years, even when there wasn't a lot up in the air, right? Like you kind of know who the guy is. The 49ers just offensively start very slow for whatever reason. I don't know why. You can go back to the beginning. Matter of fact, when they're fast, even the slow start that year, 2017, played against the Carolina Panthers. What was the final score? Like 20-3. Then the next year, you lose week 1. Jimmy Garoppolo throws 3 picks and a pick 6 after starting 5-0 as the San Francisco 49ers. You lose the first game to Minnesota Vikings on the road. And then the year after that, the ACL year, 49ers offense was kind of sputtering against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but 2 pick 6s, one from Sherman, one from Ahkello Witherspoon, and that really helped you win that game. But I feel like each year is kind of a little different, and the one thing that is constant is the 49ers just starting a little slow offensively for whatever reason. So I don't know how much you could start slow in Pittsburgh. Now, I don't think they're just the strongest team ever, but I think playing up in Pittsburgh on the road, TJ Watt, he's lights out, one of the best edge rushers in the league. Mike Tomlin, I have a ton of respect for him and what he's done for that organization. He's going to have them ready. I think if there's any time where the 49ers can kind of slip up and lose a game, it will be week 1 on the road against Pittsburgh.
And for those of you watching on YouTube, we're going to bring the schedule up on the screen a little bit here as we reference some of these games. Knees in the chat says they're coming like a buzzsaw this year. The 49ers are going to be a fun team this year. And, obviously the quarterback situation's got to get figured out, and we'll see through camp, and we'll have a better idea as we get closer what that's going to look like. And, on a future episode, Croc, we'll have an opportunity to go through each game and just go win, loss, and try to predict the record and project things out for the 49ers. But it actually did, now that I think back about, we'll get to some of the other games here on the schedule and some really big highlights on the schedule. Eagles, Seahawks, sandwiching the Eagles game. That's a huge section of this schedule for the 49ers in 2023. But do you remember when we did our podcast last year predicting the outcome of the San Francisco 49ers season? And at that point, it was Trey Lance is going to be the young first-year starter. And we thought, man, after that, after the early stretch of games, after week 7 or 8, when the 49ers just played the Kansas City Chiefs, if the Niners are like 500 right there, they'll be in good shape because the schedule gets a little softer at the end of the year.
Right.
And it turns out the 49ers were 3-5, and people were like losing their minds. Fire Kyle Shanahan. And they were only a game off of what our prediction was. And we said, hey, man, if they're 4-4, they're in a good spot. And that's after they lost their first quarterback, and we're on Jimmy G at this point. And then they went on that run, right? Part of it was Jimmy, and then it was Brock Purdy, and the Niners went on that run on that soft spot of the schedule. So the season actually didn't go that far off of as we saw it going into the year, but just 4-4 versus 3-5 felt a lot different. And if the 49ers start slow, it's just a reminder that's okay. If they do go to Pittsburgh, the Niners go on the road to start. Let's bring the schedule back up on the screen here, Croc. Niners go on the road to start the year back to back. They go at Pittsburgh and then come all the way back to the Los Angeles Rams. So not only do they have 2 road games, that it's a cross-country road trip still to come back to the Los Angeles Rams in week 2. So
is that really a road game though?
well, look, it's a is that really to be this isn't defending Super Bowl champion Rams anymore. This is like, oh no, rebuilding Rams, right? And there'll be more red than blue and gold in the stand. There'll be some gold in the stands because the Rams have that sort of yellowy gold thing going on sometimes, depending on which uniforms they're wearing. But there'll be a lot more red than blue in the stands. Let's put it that way in Los Angeles when the 49ers go to LA in week 2 to face the Rams on September 17th.
Right. I mean, and that's a game. I think that's ideal for the 49ers. You're playing across country in Pittsburgh, and then you come back and it's all right. You know, you got an hour of flight to Southern California to play against the LA Rams. That's a little bit more of an ideal situation. Now, you don't get to wake up in your own bed. And I don't even know if the 49ers at home games get to wake up in their home beds. I think the night before the games, they stay at the hotel. But just kind of having your normal routine is thrown off slightly. But, man, they played so well in L.A. And when you go into that stadium, and I've been to a couple 49er games at Levi South now, it's rocking with 49er fans. I mean, aside from them pumping in noise and the guy saying, whose house, you wouldn't really know that you're at a Rams game.
No, I totally agree.
Whose house? And then there's like a mix. I think this is what we need to do as 49er fans. All right.
Yeah.
And when they do that, I think you just have to boo. Because when they say it, you have people saying 49ers house, but you just kind of can't hear it. It just gets really loud. But if you booed, if all the 49er fans just booed, you'd know exactly what that is. And that's the 49er fans.
That's way better. Yeah, because it's whose house?
It's
Instead of
like
house?
you can't tell if it's Rams or 49. You can't tell what they're saying. So they might as well be saying Rams. But you start booing, they know, like, okay, 49er fans kind of taking over. It's their house.
By the way, dream job right there. I would love nothing more than to end my career being the guy at the stadium, you know, not even doing play-by-play, just being the guy that's like yelling about third down and asking whose house it is, you know, being that guy on the PA mic in stadium. That would be a fun gig.
Defense. I can hear you saying that. You have the voice for it.
Let them know. Let them know out there at 4949 DeBartolo Way.
And Kyle Shanahan has gotten another quarterback injured.
Entering the game. Yeah, you can hear flipping through the pages on the microphone. Who's this guy? This is QB4. So 49ers going on the road at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had a fun time talking with Matt Williamson, my co-host for the Peacock and Williamson show. You guys got to subscribe to that daily. We're talking about the entire NFL. Matt Williamson, former NFL scout. He covers the Steelers now in the Pittsburgh area. So, we got word about this game a little bit before the stuff was leaked. Before it was released earlier today. And we had a fun time talking about this one. And the Pittsburgh trip might be fun, but going on the road isn't great to start the season, and it'll probably feel a little bit weird for the 49ers because they got to go on the road, then you go to LA, then you finally come back home for the home opener against the New York Giants in week 3. Now, the Giants are an upstart team, and they were a lot better last year than they had been in years past, and I expect them to be well coached under Brian Daboll. I've been really impressed what he's done there, but they're not a scary team, right? So to start the season, you get 4 games where you're not super worried about the opponent. You're not playing playoff teams that, well, the Giants were a playoff team, but they weren't really a playoff team, right? Not like the Eagles or the Cowboys or, they
were like the Eagles of 2021.
Yes, exactly. Right. We kind of backed in, right? And who knows, maybe they'll be the Eagles of 2022 in 2023. So we'll see what the New York Giants look like this year. I have a feeling Daniel Jones won't make that leap that Jalen Hurts made in the same division there in the NFC East. But
hold on.
Okay. Okay. So Croc's got the 49ers 0-3 at this point, right? Is that where we're at?
No. I have the 49ers winning that game. But I do feel like Daniel Jones, he is kind of turned that page. It almost feels like, Sean McVay with Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff, terrible rookie year. And all of a sudden you start to see like, oh, okay, he could be a good quarterback. And I think with Daboll there, you start to kind of turn that page. You see some of the signs, right? As a runner, I mean, he's actually one of the more athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. being able to utilize his legs and Dayball, they kind of factor that into their running game. But here, I want to say like the 7th highest QBR last year or something like that. I think I saw that stat. So that kind of just shows he's actually trending in the right direction. Now, can he take that even next step? Because last year he played well enough. Now, can he work towards being more of the reason? And he has a good skill set. He has a good arm. I think early on he had a lot of turnover issues. The receiver position was spotty. Galladay just wasn't a guy that they were expecting him to be. The weapons weren't quite there. But I think right now he's kind of priming himself to like, hey, man, we added a weapon, added receiver. Can some guys take the next step? Maybe he can be just even a little bit better. And if he's a little bit better, what does that look like?
By the way, Philip here says those are recorded, Peacock. Well, look, they do have a PA announcer in stadium, and like that's some of my first memories being like in a ballpark. I remember going to Candlestick Park, watching the San Francisco Giants play, and it was like, now batting number 22, Will Clark, and it just like it gets you so pumped, and I love that, and it was always so cool from then. And like Rennell now doing it for the San Francisco Giants, I think it's a little bit more. It feels. Baseball is just the environment of baseball is a little bit different than football. Football is a little bit more about hype. Baseball is a little bit, I don't even know what the word is, but it's just those vibes of being a kid and hearing the PA and being in that atmosphere and getting pumped for the game. Is
especially
really cool.
when a Will Clark steps up or a Barry Bonds or,
right.
Or like somebody
like
maybe
or
a closing pitcher, a closing pitcher with like cool, walk-up music.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit the mound,
So starting on the road, Croc, isn't ideal in some situations, but what it means.
Real quick, what's 49 record for home openers? Because people feel like it's just this foregone conclusion that the 49ers just gonna win week 1. What's Kyle Shanahan's record to start the year, week 1?
I have no idea. We're gonna have to crowdsource this one. Please let us know in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in live, by the way, on this scheduled release day in 2023. Talk more about the 49ers schedule coming up here and a really, really important stretch later in the season as November turns to December for the San Francisco 49ers. Let us know if you guys know what the home opener record is in the Kyle Shanahan era for the San Francisco 49ers. And next, we're going to get deep into the rest of the 2023 schedule for the 49ers. But first, today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Built Bar. And of course, you're looking for that delicious snack. I know we always are. I'm always looking for a delicious snack. I've got a snack problem. I especially like to snack late at night. But you know what I love Built Bars for more than anything? Is kind of like a meal replacement, because I'm really good at not eating early in the day. So I can have a protein bar and not eat until like 2 p.m. all day long. And that's where something like Built Bar comes in handy, because if you do just need a snack, you're running around, you're working a lot, and you just need something in your body, right? You need some protein. And Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market, and it's a snack. It's something you can reach for and feel good about reaching for it because it tastes good, because it satisfies that craving you have, but it also satisfies you in that you stay satisfied because of the protein that's in a Built Bar. And it's not just empty calories if we're reaching for a candy bar or reaching for some chips. So get rid of all those terrible for you snacks in your desk or, in your briefcase or in your glove box in your car or in your pantry at home. Wherever it is that you have your snacks hiding, get rid of them so you just don't grab the bad stuff and replace it with a box of Built Bars. Healthy, can taste amazing with Built Bars and Built Puffs, and most Built Bars covered in 100% real chocolate, which sets them off and really makes you feel like you're getting a treat. I'm talking flavors like churro, peanut butter puff, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream. And not only can you find all the flavors and the newest varieties coming all the time at built.com, but you can find them in your local store shelves as well. Walmart and Sam's Club, 4-bar boxes in the pharmacy section at Walmart. Speaking of being good for you, they're at the pharmacy section at Walmart. That's how great Built Bars are for you. 4-bar boxes of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, coconut puff. And if you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab 13-bar boxes of hit flavors, brownie batter puff, churro puff, and of course, thank us later for all the goodness that you get with Built Bars. And find all the flavors and varieties, as always, at built.com. Okay, Croc. Gammon in the chat, by the way, earlier said that he's keeping track of our win-loss predictions on his spreadsheet. I don't know if he's got a head-to-head with, 49ers media or something like that. We're not going to do all of the week 1 through 8 predictions on today's show, but we will have a predictions episode talking about the schedule. Maybe that'll be Monday's episode, but I just want to go through the importance, the idea of the schedule and the important twists and turns of the 2023 schedule here as it is released. And let's bring it back up on the screen here because so 49ers
I want to clarify. I want to clarify one thing. And I'm not sure if I said home opener, but I just meant season opener. I see that in the chat.
Season opener.
Season opener. I just meant season opener, how they've played in the season opener. So it looks like the 49ers are 2 wins and 4 losses. Now, part of that is an upstarting program, and you kind of see that. But overall, 2-4 in home openers. I feel like it feels like just watching the 49ers, they just start a little slow. It just looks a little clunky, and really they don't really hit their stride until midseason. Now they can win games even when they haven't. We've seen that, but it feels like they just start a little slow. I mean, the last 2 years going to the NFC Championship, they were like sub 500 at some point, after like 6 games or 7 games or whatever.
Both years, the last 2 years going to the NFC Championship game. Now, I remember in 2019, they started out, 8-0 and 9-0 or something like that, right? They were the last unbeaten team in the league.
It was clunky, though. Like I talked about the Tampa Bay game, which was week 1. And that's why I'm talking about here, right? It was Tampa Bay on the road. It looked really weird. And you got saved by, and that's not the 49ers' fault, but Richard Sherman and Kelly Witherspoon picked 6s. And that's how you won that game. But it looked weird offensively. And I feel like, and I don't know if it's with Kyle's offense, it just takes like a couple weeks to kind of get in a groove. And then once you get in the groove, okay, we're rocking and rolling. But it's almost like kind of takes a couple games to get to that point, and then everybody starts to mesh, and then you start hitting your stride.
Kyle doesn't start coaching well until people start calling for his job, is what you're trying to say.
Once people start questioning him, it's like, oh, you're going to question me, mother effer? All right, I got you.
And it's funny because it's happened. It's amazing. There are a large swath of 49ers fans that are calling for Kyle's job at some point, September, October, and then the 49ers in that same season end up in the NFC Championship game. That's happened 2 years in a row. That's wild. That's the roller coaster ride we're on right now as we cover the San Francisco 49ers. It's fun, though. It makes it more fun, in my opinion.
Jammin talks about he's putting kind of some of the scores, and I forgot about the Lions game. You had the offensive explosion. Weird game. Lions kind of started to come back late in that game a little bit, and then you go to Philly, you win, but then you lose like the next 4 games.
Oh, that's right. In 2021, the 49ers didn't start great, but even the win at Detroit, you remember that game? It was like, why are the 49ers, they were like beating the crap out of the Lions, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, this game's kind of close in the 4th quarter. What's going on? This is the Lions. The Lions ended up with the number 2 pick that year. And last year, the 49ers lost to the team that earned the number 1 pick in the draft and the team that earned the number 5 pick of the draft.
Weird, right? Like just weird things happen. Weird things. So, and I'm not saying 49ers aren't going to be a good team. I'd say everybody says, I mean, in the NFC, probably second best odds to go to the Super Bowl. Only team I would assume that has better odds than the 49ers is probably Philly. And do you feel like the 49ers have kind of, from a talent standpoint, closed that gap between them and Philly? Because it feels like Philly just has a better roster.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia right now, they know who their quarterback is, and they have a really good roster top to bottom. The 49ers have a really good roster top to bottom as well. And most recently, and I know the 49ers can't wait to get back and have a rematch there, but the Eagles beat the 49ers. So the Eagles should be the favorite right now. But I can't.
We're going to talk about the state of the franchise, but I think Kyle hit the nail on the head when he said, by the time the 49ers play Philly, which is what, like week 13 or something like that, week 12, week 13. I could look right here, matter of fact. I want to say it's week 13. Yeah, week 13.
Week 13, December 3rd.
The 49ers would be like, all right, like that's when they're in the middle of their stride, right? Like, okay, we're good there. Like he's like, man, I'm excited to play them then at that time. I think they're gonna see the best version of the 49ers.
That's right. And look, and that's what I was talking about with Matt Williamson, who's covers the Steelers. He's like that the best, because he knew we already knew which teams were gonna play what teams. And he already thought it's like the best time to play the 49ers. They're coming to Pittsburgh. That would be ideal if they come in week 1. right? Because of the quarterback situation and because of the way they've started their season. So even the Pittsburgh folks are like, if we have to play the 49ers, that's a tough team. I'd rather play them in week 1 than week 13 any day. So
Right.
I totally agree with that. And so let's get a little bit deeper into the schedule because we've only talked about the first few games so far. But starting on the road, Croc, for the first 2 weeks means the 49ers are going to have a lot of home games the rest of the way. And it's a pretty favorable schedule in that regard. And I think in week 6, 7 on the road at Browns, at Vikings is a perfect opportunity to hang out in Youngstown, Ohio, being that they're going to be in Cleveland, Ohio in week 6. They could stay in Youngstown, Ohio, and then go Minnesota Vikings week 7, then come back home for 2 games against the Bengals, and then have a bye or have come back home for 2 weeks because then they've got a home game against the Bengals and then a bye week. So there's actually not that much travel, and I think there is that opportunity for a 2-week away, and then you get a bye week before another away game. So I don't think the schedule's too bad as far as travel. It's not ideal maybe in some situations, but starting on the road means that you're going to be fresher for that trip going East Coast, West Coast. And then you've got the Giants coming. You've got the Arizona Cardinals in week 4. The first really big game on the schedule is week 5, though, against the Dallas Cowboys. That one's going to be a lot of fun. And the 49ers better be in a pretty good place record-wise when they get going against the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's going to be the first game where it's like, okay, let's see what kind of football team we've got here. You've had your opportunity to be weird at the start. You should have won at least a couple of games against the Rams and the Cardinals and the Giants and the Steelers. If they're not 500 by week 5, it's probably not a great sign. And you better know who your quarterback is. Then you get the Cowboys, and then it's go time for the 2023 season right there, in my opinion, on October 8th.
I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be playing
Sunday night.
Right. Sunday Night Football. I think Micah Parsons is going to be more of a full-time edge rusher now. That's what they're talking about, him bulking up a little bit and just really rushing more off the edge. I think that's kind of scary for the league with as good as he was, kind of playing 2 roles in that defense.
And he kind of already had become mostly an edge guy. And I think the Cowboys are like, let's just quit the charade. We're going to put DE next to his name, and he's going to gain a few pounds, and he's an edge guy because that's what he is. He's modern day Lawrence Taylor, basically. I'm not going to put him in that category of player, but he's an edge guy. It might, some people might put LB next to his name, but he's not an off-ball linebacker, and he's just too valuable.
Or Von Miller.
Yeah, he's Von Miller. Right, exactly. So you got the Cowboys in week 5. You've got that trip that they'll probably hang out in Youngstown, Ohio. If I had to guess, after the Cleveland Browns week 6, then the Minnesota Vikings week 7. I know that'll be a heartbreaker for Kyle Shanahan to play against his boy Kirk Cousins there in week 7. Then a really tough game, but it's at home. After that trip in the Midwest, they're going to come home and play the Cincinnati Bengals. 49ers have a lot of good teams on their schedule. The Cincinnati Bengals are a team that I expect to go far in the AFC. So that's going to be another barometer game. So then you got a bye week in week 9, and you get to regroup a little bit. And
that's the one game, if I had to predict, win-loss. Remember, I said, Pittsburgh Steelers, because the 49ers start slow. Then I can see them winning the next games. Dallas probably, be tough, but they just somehow have Dallas' number. But that Cincinnati Bengals game, that's the game. If I just have to be like, hey, they'll lose 2 games in the first 8 weeks or whatever, before the bye. Like, what games would that be? I'll be like, man, Steelers kind of catch them off guard a little bit because 49ers start slow. Then the Cincinnati Bengals, like, even though it's at home. Like, those would be
luckily for the 49ers, the 2 toughest games before their week 9 bye are home games. So they get the Cowboys and they get the Bengals both at Levi's Stadium. Which Levi's Stadium traditionally hasn't been the biggest home field advantage in the league, but I think it's growing and becoming more of a home field advantage. And I think it's important to get those good teams on the road in your house. So I think that is an advantage so far in the first half of the schedule before the week 9 bye to get the Cowboys week 5, get the Bengals week 8 in your house. And once you get to week 9, the 49ers need to be at 500 after those 8 weeks or better. I think once again, and maybe a couple games better. Like this is a team that should probably be 5-3 at least after those first 8 games, right? The way the 49ers are built.
Right. That's how it feels. Yeah.
Okay. So we got a week 9 bye. Let's talk post bye and the most important part of the 49ers 2023 regular season schedule next. Thanks, everybody, once again for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Shout out to the everydayers. We're going to make our official predictions week by week as it pertains to the 49ers 2023 schedule. Of course, continue our deep dives into all the prospects the 49ers have drafted, plus undrafted free agents, and get everybody ready for 2023 training camp every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribed up, hit the like button, the thumbs up, and the notification and all those things so you know when new podcasts are coming. Okay, Croc. Gammon says, who is eating turkey at center field during Thanksgiving versus the Seahawks? That is the question that everybody wants to know the answer to. And
I know who won't be eating turkey. Eric Crocker, because turkey is trash. But go ahead.
Okay, now, well, look, as far as if we were okay, you just derailed this entire podcast because this could be a whole podcast in its own. Right now, Croc, as fast as you can, rank traditional Thanksgiving food items. Go.
Okay, ham with the honey glazed ham.
You're not putting ham one.
That's mac and cheese and ham. One? Mac and cheese, ham, and the dressing with the cranberry sauce stuff. Give me that, and I'm good. I'm good with just that. Everything else is just ham. Gross.
You went ham, mac and cheese, cranberry sauce. 1, 2, 3.
Dressing and or stuffing.
Oh, like stuffing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, but maybe some cranberries in your stuffing, but not cranberry sauce.
Nah, you got the cranberry sauce. It's like it's kind of thicker. All right, yeah, we are getting derailed. Okay.
Dude, I wish I wouldn't ask Croc this question because this is worse than being a 49ers and Lakers fan and then a USC football, but a UCLA basketball fan. We're talking cranberry sauce is like.
Hey, the more questions you ask me, the weirder it starts to get. So keep the questions at a minimum.
If you're talking stuffing, I'm with you, man. Stuffing might be number one, man, for me. But okay,
I'm there for the baked mac and cheese, the ham, and the stuffing.
Philip knows what's up with the green bean casserole. Shout out to the green bean casserole crowd. I could see George Kittle going to town in the middle of the field with a leg in one hand, a little turducken, a little green bean casserole, because the 49ers are winning that game on the road at the Seattle Seahawks in week 12. And this is such a huge portion of the season. I don't want to gloss over week 10 and 11. This Jaguars team's for real, by the way. And the 49ers are going to Duval County on the road post-bye in week 10, November 12th, to face the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've got a star quarterback. I can't wait to see what that team looks like with year 3, Trevor Lawrence, who looks like he could, reach that star level of quarterback, that Joe Burrow level of quarterback. That could be what we're talking about week 10 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think are going to be the top team in that AFC South division, who might all be starting rookies at that point at quarterback in week 10. So that's a tough game against the Jaguars week 10. Then you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that are sort of in a soft rebuild mode. I think they should probably be in a harder rebuild mode than they are, to be honest with you. Got them at home in week 11, but this is the biggest point of the season. First of all, it's late in the season, week 12, so we'll know how important these games are. The 49ers, we'll be able to start looking at the schedule and looking at the standings and say, okay, the 49ers are this many games back, got to win this, talking about clinching scenarios and those types of things. And, you hope the 49ers are talking about them clinching and not trying to prevent the Seahawks from clinching the West, right? Talking about home field advantage in the playoffs, talking about 1 seed instead of talking about wild card for the 49ers. So that's where we're going to be in week 12. Thursday night, this is going to be Thanksgiving, the late game, Seattle at the Seattle Seahawks in week 12. Then NFC Championship game rematch, Croc, December 3rd at the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you've got the Seahawks again sandwiching that Eagles game back at home at Levi's Stadium on December 10th, week 14. So that is a brutal stretch of games. And at least you get a couple of extra days there because it's the Thursday game after the first Seattle game before the Eagles game. But then you got to travel back home. So week 12, 13, 14, by far the most important stretch of the San Francisco 49ers season for both NFC seeding, for NFC West seeding, playing the Seahawks twice in 3 weeks with the dreaded Philadelphia Eagles rematch in between them.
And that game against Seattle, and I know 49ers swept them last year. I'm a big believer in development, whether it's the 49ers or other teams. And the amount of young players that Seattle has stacked between last year, and if those guys take a step, and then the young guys that you look to have some type of contribution this year, I think they're going to be tough. I think they're going to be tough. And I think that home game for them, feeding off of that, is going to be tough. Now, I got the 49ers splitting against Seattle this year. You did a great job. You swept them last year. You got them, beat up on them. That was awesome. But I think this year, I think it'd be a little bit tougher to sweep them. I think out of all the teams that can really kind of take that next step, I see Seattle kind of doing that. I feel like you just talked about the soft rebuild with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like last year was like a soft rebuild for the Seahawks, and they still made the playoffs. And then now this year, it's like, all right, let's go.
And, this year, next year, you could start to see where, okay, the Seattle Seahawks have just added 4 first-round talents to their roster in the last couple of years. The Niners have added 0 first-round players to their roster in the last 2 years, right? So that's pretty important for building it traditionally and building a foundational roster. And so, and if the Seahawks have as good of a draft this year as they had last year, then man, look out, because this team could be very good very fast. And they were already a playoff team last year with Geno Smith. Now there's the other side of it where, maybe the second year guys don't take another step. Maybe this draft class isn't as good, younger roster, and maybe Geno Smith comes back down to earth and doesn't have quite a good year, quite as good of a year as he had last year. And you're like, oh yeah, he's Geno Smith. And then maybe they're not as good of a team, but we'll see where the Seahawks are at week 12. And the other thing is Thursday night road games are tough, Croc. I mean, they just are tough. And a lot of times those are scheduled losses. If you just took all of the road Thursday night teams and said, I'm going to bet on the home team, you would win 9 out of 10 of those bets probably.
I see a lot of the chat, and everybody's like, oh man, they still got Geno. So, 49ers are going to beat them. And it's like, I hear you, but just read these numbers off here. All right. Geno Smith last year, almost 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks, and 7th overall in the NFL in QBR. Led the NFL in completion percentage while throwing the ball down the field. If those were any quarterback on the 49ers stats, what are we saying about that quarterback? So why is it that Geno, who had a tough time against, the number 1 defense in the NFL, why are we just dismissing the type of season that he just had? Now, again, can he do it again? That's going to be the big question. But hey, they're looking at it like, hey, we added another weapon in the backfield to go with Kenneth Walker, right? Drafted Zach Charbonnet. Our offensive lineman that we drafted last year, another year of development. We drafted Jackson Smith and Jigma in the first round to go with DK and Tyler Lockett. Like, and Geno had a terrific year last year. That would probably be the best season in 49er history, what Geno did last year. And it's like people are just kind of dismissing it because the 49ers beat them twice. And that's what I'm saying. They take that next step. I think they split with the Niners.
It's hard not to predict a split, but the big one is in between that split, the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's been a lot of trash talk already. There's going to be nearly a year's worth of trash talk built up before that game, week 13 against the Eagles. So you hope the 49ers have a healthy quarterback and a good quarterback at that point. And you hope that the 49ers block Hassan Reddick in that game, because that's going to be a fun one. And I can't wait for week 13 against the Philadelphia Eagles. And to be honest with you, man, to make that game even better, I really do hope that that's like 1 and 2 seed battle in the NFC right there in week 13, December 3rd against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right. So then the 49ers finish out their season at the Arizona Cardinals, week 15, December 17th. Then they're back home again, the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas Day. I thought the 49ers were going to have a Christmas Day game. It turns out they do have Christmas Day, December 25th. And that is the Baltimore Ravens, week 16. Then they're at the Washington Commanders on December 31st, week 17. And then flex game, week 18, finish up the season against the Los Angeles Rams. That's a heck of a schedule. A lot of back and forths across the country. I think they get probably 4 of their best 5 opponents at home, though, Croc, which is, I think, the biggest win on the entire schedule to me. Getting the Ravens, Bengals, Cowboys all at home. And I would say the only team that maybe the Jaguars, we'll see where they're at this year. And of course, they're going to, have a home and home with the Seattle Seahawks, obviously. But I'm not seeing any powerhouse teams that they're going to be playing this year. And of course, things change year to year. And who knows, maybe the Vikings or the Steelers or I don't know, the Commanders. I don't know what team. The Browns with Deshaun Watson.
The Rams
they all of a sudden become a juggernaut this year.
So it's the Rams where they had a down year last season. And I think when you look at the schedule, it's like you just count them out, right? Now, if you just say, well, the Rams have been a team that, 4 out of the 6 years that McVay has been the coach, they've gone to the playoffs. They've gone to multiple Super Bowls. Like, if they just return back to kind of what they've been, which can they? I don't know. They feel like they're on the way down. That's why we're looking at it like that. But if they are good, now what does that schedule look like? But I think now we're all kind of just dismissing the Rams, which of course, it just feels like they're on the downward trend.
Great.
Same with Arizona Cardinals. They got the new coaching staff. Kyler Murray, like, what is he? He's coming off a torn ACL, but that's kind of been the team that kind of sneak up on you a little bit sometimes. But last year they were just so bad.
There's a great point by Knees in the chat here. He says, going to that Christmas game, can't wait to see us beat Huntley. I forgot. Lamar Jackson's always hurt in December, so that might be an easier game than we're giving it credit for with the Ravens visiting Levi's Stadium in Week 16. But yeah, I think it's a pretty favorable schedule, all things considered. 49ers don't have a crazy London travel game or anything like that. They get to play the Jaguars in Jacksonville. They do have a couple of East Coast trips. They can probably stay over in Youngstown for one of those. So I'm seeing a schedule that I like. I think some of the best opponents are at home. There's that tough stretch week 12, 13, 14. And if the 49ers can get off to a hotter start this year, and they have some teams that you think the 49ers should beat, as long as their quarterback situation is figured out early in the season, whether it's the Steelers game or the Rams and then the Giants and Cardinals at home before week 5 Cowboys, Niners should be 3-1, right, on paper in that stretch. And so we'll see what it ends up looking like for the 49ers. But I like the schedule so far for the 49ers. I'm getting pumped for this season now, just seeing and picturing what these games are going to look like. And we're going to go through our official predictions. But, yeah, right now I'm feeling pretty bullish on taking the over, Croc. It's hard when you don't know who the quarterback's going to be to start the year, though.
But what we've seen with the 49ers, as long as they're not CJ better than Nick Mullins bad, I think you'll be fairly confident that this team will win games.
And the over-under was 10.5, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I'd take the over.
I'm feeling good.
It feels like a 12-5 season, right?
And speaking of those quarterbacks,
when you're going through the schedule, and if you're like, okay, wins here, but loss here, it's like, well, they're going to lose to that team. But if you just erase faces to the schedule and just say 49ers 12-5, I think everybody would take that, and you'd be one of the best teams in the NFC.
Arthur says it's a lot of East Coast traveling, though, man, tough. And I agree, but the 49ers always lead. It's always the 49ers and the Seahawks have the most travel mileage in the entire league every year. So it's nothing new making, traveling to the East. They're playing the NFC East, so that makes it, worse than if they were playing the NFC North, maybe by a few thousand miles. But they're used to the travel. 49ers travel a lot. The Seahawks travel a lot. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait for it. And by the way, speaking of those quarterbacks, you know what? It doesn't really matter, Croc, because according to Kyle Shanahan, it shouldn't be a surprise at all to anybody who's been paying attention to Kyle Shanahan that he did say at the event on Thursday night or Wednesday night, whenever that event was, that the 49ers do have 3 franchise level quarterbacks. So I guess we shouldn't be fretting on which one of those franchise level quarterbacks it's going to be.
Right. Just it's a moot point at this point. You got 3 good quarterbacks and one that's the greatest thrower of the football in 49ers history. So.
Yeah, either you got statistically the best quarterback in the NFL last year in Brock Purdy when he played, or you have the most talented thrower of the football in 49ers history in Sam Darnold, or you've got the guy who's even more talented than both of them, who they traded up to draft at number 3 overall, who's the big wild card in Trey Lance. So 49ers 2023 schedule. There it is. Croc and I will continue to break down the schedule, make our official predictions on every single game, and have official season record predictions on future episodes. We're going to continue to break down the NFL draft as well. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Croc and I back Monday right here. Locked On 49ers.